On the air. All right.
All right, cool.
So we'll start with the first question we're going to talk about is why does the varsity team lose to the JV team? So in this, to get down to the main reason, like in the discussion leader page or whatever, it gives kind of smaller questions to ask. What, I guess to get to what the ideas were and what the conflicts were. So the first, like, smaller question, it says, did the varsity members engage in too much conflict? And what was the conflict about? And is there appropriate place for conflict among the members of the crew or the members of any team? So. I don't know if anybody has any thoughts on that.
Stephanie, got any thoughts? I feel bad. I need to read through this.
Okay. I didn't quite hear the question, but let me see.
So something I thought that I had about this was, did they engage in too much conflict? My answer to that was yes. They did, because they had quite a bit of conflict in their team where they didn't agree with, with placement of certain people, the technique adjustments that needed to happen, there's all this stuff. And so I think there's too much conflict there where the JV team just didn't have that. The JV team was like a lot more easygoing. They kind of focused on the task at hand and put all the rest of the personal issues aside.
Yeah.
Which led them to be a better, more cohesive team.
Yeah, I think there was also a lot of conflict, and they were like the varsity team was too focused on each individual and what they did and what they didn't do. Instead, the junior varsity crew was more focused about their performance as a group. So they try to be better as a group instead of talking about specific people that did something wrong. I mean, they helped each other be better. Instead, the others were really fighting all the time and sending emails to the coach to complain about someone else. So yeah, there was a lot of conflict there.
There's so much more collaborative effort, basically.
Yeah, so on the varsity team, they were all trying to be the squad, basically, but they all wanted to outrace each other.
That's funny because it says on here that they had the strongest rowers too, the varsity team.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were strong. Had tested them and their performance, so he made sure that they were really strong and everything. But if they didn't work as a group, it didn't really matter as much.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's talk about all the finger pointing and stuff that happened. So I think there was too much conflict. The conflict was basically about, they were talking crap about each other and trying to be the best, instead of trying to become a team and work together. And they got angry with each other. And then kind of the final part of the question is, is there an appropriate place for conflict among the members of the varsity crew or any team? I think yes, conflict is fine as long as you resolve it in an appropriate manner. The conflict isn't the issue. It's what happens because of the conflict.
That's true. I think it's important to address the conflicts, not just to keep it in.
Yeah, and that was the other issue they talked about in the cases. A lot of them turned to emails. They were, the coaches, their complaints about so and so. All this different stuff, but they never went and talked to those people or tried to figure it out as a group.
Yeah, I think conflict can happen. It happens all the time. But if you address it and you want to solve it, you want to work as a group to make things improve, then it's okay. But if you just want to complain and do nothing about it, it doesn't help anyone.
Okay, so that probably takes care of that first part of it. The second one is what role did trust play in the problems that the varsity crew faced? So in the case, it talks about how when one person makes even the slightest mistake or miscalculation in their rowing, it can affect the entire boat. And that a lot of times what happens is everybody else tries to respond, but they all do so differently, and then it hurts even worse the boat's performance. And it said what they need to do is trust that whoever it is that's out of sync or whatever the issue might be, trust that they'll fix themselves, and everybody else just kind of ignore it and keep going with the rhythm. And so I think trust played a huge factor there, because that didn't happen. They didn't trust that the one person was good enough to fix their own faults, or didn't trust that somebody was good enough to even really be part of their team, because they were the best rowers around.
Yeah. It also says that the varsity boat critiqued each other individually on the details of the practice. And I don't know about you, but I've had people that have critiqued every little thing that I've done, and nobody likes that. I don't care who you are. Nobody likes to be critiqued all the time. It's okay to do it and kind of pick your spots and do it in an appropriate manner, like we were saying. But
yeah, I think trust was super important, and that they were not as good as they could be just because they didn't trust each other and they were constantly fighting. So if they didn't trust each other, they didn't know how it was going to work when they actually had to do the sport. And they were a team, so they worked as a team, so everybody needed to get along and trust. Just that. But they couldn't manage to do that, and that's why they weren't. So that's why the junior varsity crew was better than them, I think. Because they had the strength, they had the characteristics they needed to be there in the main team, but they needed to trust the other team members.
Yeah. There's no I in team, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So the other question that I asked, kind of third question in that section, is it says, how did the rivalry between the two boats influence varsity's performance?
Probably realize after they lost that collaboration and having trust between each other is actually
I think I think it probably made things worse for them, because who's the weak link on our team? Who made us just lose to JV? Why is this happening with us? And so they probably turned and kind of started analyzing each other and critiquing even more to figure out whose fault it was, when really that wasn't it wasn't really anybody's fault. But that was kind of, I'm sure, the initial reaction to it as well. We just got beat by the guys that we're supposed to be better than. They were supposed to strive to be on our team, and they just beat us. Who called that kind of deal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it also causes, a lot of anxiety, because you should be beating the JV team, and so they feel like they're all probably stroking a little bit harder than they should to work as a perfect team, because now they're all trying to make up for that loss, So each continual loss, after each consecutive loss, probably threw them more and more off throughout the season.
Yeah, well, I'll say, and what's interesting is because it talks about, what happens if you replace a member of a team, and is fostering competition between teams harmful or is it good? And in the case, it says that the JV rowers, after they started switching the rowers, bringing one down to JV or bringing one up to varsity, is the JV team wanted nothing to do with the varsity, rower that got sent down, and none of the JV team wanted to go up to varsity to be on the losing team. And so it totally had a backwards effect of trying to improve the team by switching switching people to see if you could fix the trust and fix the team aspect. it totally backfired, and it says it led to even worse results because the JV wanted nothing to do with varsity because they thought it was, this big thing. Oh, you get to be on the varsity boat, and then they realized they're faster and better, and then they're like, well, why would I want to do that?
Yeah,
That's a good point. I think I'd rather be on a super awesome JV team than a losing varsity team.
Yeah. Exactly. The one that has team cohesive issues. I don't want to be part of that.
Yeah.
And then it says, should the coach have stepped in to provide better leadership, or should he have encouraged one of the team members to provide leadership? I think that's kind of an interesting question to ask.
Yeah, maybe because of the situation, probably having one of the members be a leader wouldn't be such a good idea because they were like already competing individually with each other instead of viewing yourself as a team. So if you have one of the members as a leader, they'd probably be like fighting against him, like to be better than him instead of just following his instructions or something. But if the coach is a leader, he's already your coach. He has authority over you, so you're not trying to be better than your coach, right? So he would have probably had to be the one, for me, to take initiative and help them improve.
That's basically the coach's job.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna say. I think that's a fair point. I mean, he, especially given their state of discontent with each other, I think he should have kind of stepped in and taken the reins a little bit, not like in a authoritative way, but just kind of we all want to do better, but we can't do that, blaming each other, going behind our backs, emailing, hey, this person sucks, hey, whatever.
Yeah.
And I think he definitely could have done a better job there.
It was his job to kind of reevaluate like the group as a whole and see their flaws and try to improve upon them.
Yeah, totally. Well, so I think
I think if I was, oh, sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
So I was going to say, I think if I was the coach there, because, I mean, I've played sports my whole life all the time, and I think if I was the coach, I would have at first tried to encourage one of the teammates that I felt could be a leader or is influential to the other teammates to step up and start figuring it out. Because I know in high school basketball for me, that was like the most important thing that helped me out was when my teammate would pull me aside and say, hey, this is where, we need to be doing better. Because sometimes coming from the coach, it's like, hey, you're the old fat guy, you get down here and do it, But when your teammate can say, hey, I see this is why this is going wrong, sometimes it does mean a little bit more. But I think once they got to a certain point, none of those teammates sounded like they had the ability to influence another anymore, especially when the JV didn't even want influencing from the varsity.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really fair point, and that's probably the way it could have gone on like a cohesive team. I mean, I think that's generally the way it goes. Is the coach tries to have, the team work it out amongst themselves because it creates camaraderie and works out better that way. But where they were kind of on their downward spiral and they got, pretty far down the path of no return, but I think he definitely should have stepped up to do something, which actually leads to the next question that says, what should he have done, or what should he have done differently earlier in the season to resolve the problem? I think what you said could have been part of a solution had it been caught earlier. Is kind of have one of the teammates or a couple of the teammates step up and be leaders and try to get the team mentality going with everybody and kind of get a goal.
Ellos llegan, esa pareja llega en junio.
So in this section of the discussion, they ask that we be super specific with what we think the coach should have done to fix this and why we think it would have worked to help the team.
Well, I think first of all he should have intervened a lot earlier because it was reading a bit, and it says that like just before one of the most important race they were going to have, he just found out that some team members were really upset at other participants because some of them thought they were the only ones like carrying the boat. And if he would have known that earlier, he would have probably been able to do something about it. I don't know specifically what he could have done, but maybe just find out earlier what was the cause to do something about it.
Yeah, I think that's important, and I think something else is because in the case study it talks about how they went to that retreat or whatever, and they were having the like the
The main problem they had was that they didn't acknowledge their responsibilities as a group. So I don't know how well that works, but I've seen there are like there is like specialists in sports psychology. They could probably have one of them to help them understand each other, because the coach was constantly helping them improve their scores of like strength and abilities, but he wasn't working on the part that team members should understand each other. So maybe he could hire another specialist or coach in sports psychology to help them understand that they are working towards a goal and that they will not achieve it if they don't work together.
Yeah. Maybe he needs to do more research as a coach too. Like in terms of like sports psychology, like you were saying, like just making sure the team is on the same course and each like individual player knows their like tasks.
Ya podrían, si ellos confirman, si la hacemos linda, porque ahí hay como.
Sorry, I missed what the question was. I'm at work still. Well, kind of. I have to answer the radio throughout the night. Do you remember what the question was, Justin or Stephanie?
Well, it was about the coach, but I don't know. Was that the last question that he had?
I don't know. Was it just like what should the coach have done?
Yeah, like what could the coach have done better to help his team like beat the JV team? Like what specifically? He just said like just to get into specifics.
Okay.
I think his questions were not in the discussion leader only questions, I think. Let me see.
Yeah, we're in part 3 now. So what should the coach do now for the final race? In the case study, they leave us in the moment that the race is just some days from now. So he has 3 options to switch the varsity and the junior varsity boats, switch individual boat members, or intervene to improve the varsity boat's performance. So what do you think he should do? And how it will impact the team?
I think on a competitive coaching level where the JV has consistently beat the varsity team, I mean, it's a jerkish thing to do to those varsity people who've worked hard, but hey, the JV has worked hard too. But I would honestly probably switch the boats. I would say varsity is going JV and JV is going varsity. They've worked at it. They've gotten it, and that is so impersonal, because as a player or as an employee of anything, as a lesser person, that would just kill you, to go from varsity down. But if you're not performing, you don't deserve it.
Yeah, I agree.
It's just like any coach.
Yeah, because
go ahead, Stephanie. Sorry.
No, okay, sorry. Because there's also an option to switch individual board members, and I think that would be a total mess. Like, both teams would be bad then, because they understand, the team understands, the JV team understands each other members, and if you switch the members, it would be a complete disaster. So yeah, it's switch the votes for me too. That would be great.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just gonna say, just like, you have to be able to, like, in any professional sports league, whether it's the NBA or the MLB or whatever, like, the coach has to be able to deliver and have success in leading the team. And if he's not doing that, then obviously you're going to get fired if it's a professional sports team. So yeah, either fire him or bring him lower to a different, like, a lower level, and get him to, like, I don't know. That's all I have to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
also, the other option was. Oh, sorry.
No, you're good.
So the last option was to intervene to improve the varsity's boat performance. They already had their chances. I mean, they could have already figured what to do, like observe what the JV is doing. So, yeah, I think they should just switch the boats and don't feel sorry for the varsity team, because if they're, as you said, the coach has to deliver or get fired.
Yep, basically.
Yeah, I agree with you, Stephanie. I mean, the varsity has had their chance to change things, and the JV already. I mean, can you imagine the confidence a JV team has to have to consistently beat the varsity team? They're probably feeling pretty dang good, and to be able to be told that they're going to go to this meet or competition or whatever they're called for crew, I think that would just boost their confidence like none other, and I bet they would come and compete well,
Yeah.
So I would switch the boats. Yeah, and it's horrible